We have reached the golden hour here on USFDons.com, and we are joined once again by USF men's basketball head coach Todd Golden. Coach, thanks for jumping on today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you, Manny. How are you?
Doing very well. Doing very well. How are you?
Great. I'm doing great.
Good. I'm glad to hear it, and glad to be on and doing another one of these. For those of you viewing, this is our 8th episode. So if this is your first time joining us, head to the USF Dons Athletics YouTube page to check the others out. That was a lot. You can also just go to usfdons.com/golden hour. We've covered roster building, in-game strategy, Todd's first year in the big chair, and much, much more. So be sure to check them out. Coach, we're here, and the fall semester has started, albeit remotely on the hilltop. And I thought for this week, it would be fun to take more of a deep dive into your playing career. We touched on it from time to time, and today I'd like to go in depth. So you ready to do some storytelling?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's go. Okay, so with that in mind, I think the first question is a pretty easy one. When did you start playing basketball?
It's early on, my man. My father actually played on the freshman basketball team at UMass back in the day. He was in between. He was a year below Dr. J and a year above Rick Pitino. So he was sandwiched in between those guys. He actually had a relatively good career there as a freshman, but then just kind of decided to hang him up, and he's now a lawyer, an attorney in Phoenix. But basketball was always really a passion of his, and I'm pretty sure as a 2-year-old, let's say, that I had one of those little Tykes hoops in our family room where it all got started. But I started playing a lot at an early age, and it became a passion of mine very quickly.
Did you play more than one sport when you were growing up?
Yeah. Actually, I played a lot of sports. And honestly, I think it was one of the reasons why I was able to kind of continue my career as long as I did. I played baseball quite a bit growing up, played through high school, played flag football growing up, golf, did a lot of different things. But really basketball and baseball were the two sports that I kind of focused on throughout my childhood.
Yeah, I remember your first pitch last year. You for those who did not see it, Coach did not bounce it. In fact, far from it. It was good.
I didn't bounce it. It almost hit the top of the backstop, but it had some heat on it.
Yeah, it did. Well, it's a short backstop at Benedetti too, so we'll give you that. Do you remember the place where you fell in love with basketball as a sport?
Yeah, growing up, I went to the Jewish Community Center in Phoenix, Arizona quite a bit. That was where my dad hung out and played in his rec men's leagues, and he would kind of drag me along, and I'd be the kid shooting on the hoops during the timeouts and kind of running around. And then, playing in the Sunday kids leagues and things like that, and going to the summer camps in the summer. But I spent a lot of time there growing up. And the great thing about it is back then in the late 80s, early 90s, that's where the Phoenix Suns practiced. So we would see them quite a bit. I remember probably as a 6 or 7-year-old seeing Jeff Hornacek walking into the gym on a Friday night to get some shots up. But that was definitely where I spent a majority of my time playing basketball growing up.
That's fantastic. Did you get to go to a lot of games too?
I did actually. My father had tickets to the Suns. They moved out. I want to say at some point in the late 70s, early 80s, or created the franchise at that point. And my dad had season tickets early on, so I was very fortunate and was able to attend quite a bit of Phoenix Suns games as a child.
Any fun memories from those years as going to NBA games?
Yeah, so I remember going back at Phoenix Memorial Coliseum, Veterans Memorial Coliseum. This is, before 1992, because I think that's when they moved into their new arena, America West Arena. And I remember as a young kid, I had a Tom Chambers jersey that I would wear. And I really remember the Suns gorilla coming and picking me up and throwing me over his shoulder, running onto the court in the middle of a game, when the ball was on the other side of the floor. And, it was a different time back then, right? There wasn't security up and down the aisles the same way as it was now. And I remember, every time at halftime, my father and I would go get, an ice cream cone to bring back for the second half. And it was some of the best memories of my childhood.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure it played a role in you continuing to play later on.
For sure.
When did basketball become serious to you?
probably when I was 2 years old. No, I think it was funny, and I feel really bad for my parents because I was kind of a pain, growing up. I was very competitive, as some people probably aren't surprised to hear. And I didn't always control my temper very well, which was something that I kind of have worked on over the past 20 years or so. But my competitiveness defines me a little bit. I think it's one of the things that has, knock on wood, made me somewhat successful in this basketball space. And I do remember playing in leagues as a kindergartner and a first grader, and just being very upset when I lost and being very happy when I won. But it was always something that I took very seriously.
What was your high school career like?
It was awesome, to be honest. I had a great lesson as a freshman in high school. So I went to Sunny Slope High School in Phoenix, Arizona, and we had a very good class. Our freshman class was very good. Well, there was another young man that I went there with that played on the varsity team as a freshman. And I remember as a freshman, I got pulled up to try out for the JV team. And after a couple of days, I thought I did really well. And I ended up not making the team. I got kind of bumped back down to the freshman team, and it was a kind of a rude awakening. And because a couple of the other kids stayed up as freshmen, and we had a very successful year. I think we went 17-1 as a freshman team, but it let me know, like, hey, you're not as nice as you think you are, and you need to keep working and get a lot better. And that summer between my freshman and sophomore year was huge. I worked really, really hard. I put a lot of time in. And fortunately, I grew a little bit, got a little stronger, and I ended up making the varsity team as a sophomore and starting every game. And, that sophomore year, we had a great year. We ended up losing in the state championship game. In kind of small world, Mickey McConnell, who's now an assistant coach at St. Mary's, his grandfather was the head coach of the team we lost to, Tucson Saguaro. Nate Renfro actually went to Tucson Saguaro as well. So another small world comparison, but we lost in the championship as a sophomore. And then, we had that same group. Basically every player on that team came back the next year. And we kind of, we had some unfinished business. We thought we kind of let a great opportunity slip through our hands. And that junior year team was honestly a remarkable club. We went 29-1. We ended up being ranked, I think, 27th in the country by USA Today to finish the season. We ended up winning the state championship, beating a team from Page, Arizona that had Matt Harrius, who ended up playing at Stanford, was a really good player there. And that was just a great accomplishment, something that I'll never forget. And then the senior year, we had another really good team, but our conference was loaded. We went 22-5, but we didn't end up making the state playoffs. It was a really strange situation where only 2 teams per region went. And at 22-5, we were the third best team, so we didn't make it. But overall, just really enjoyed my career. I had a great high school coach. His name was Dan Mannix. He was an old school guy. He was from Brooklyn, New York. He had kind of migrated out to Phoenix in the mid '70s and built up this program. And he was a no nonsense guy. He made us a lot tougher. He didn't let us get away with anything. And I think for all of us that went through the program, we were all better off for it. He's since been voted into the Arizona State High School Hall of Fame. He won over like 700 games, something amazing. And he's since retired, but he just can't get enough of it. He sits behind the Sunny Slope bench every game. And, I think he'll do that for as long as he lives.
That's fantastic. And it sounds like a very deserving Hall of Fame induction there.
For sure.
Yeah. So you gave us kind of the 35,000-foot view of your high school career. Are there any specific memories from high school, the basketball part, that stick out, the bus trips or a specific game that you remember?
Well, a couple things. The first thing, I would say is in that freshman to sophomore summer, I was having some confidence issues and trying to, wonder where my career was going to go and trying to figure it out. And I had an assistant coach named Steve Rosenbaum, who's still a great friend of mine and someone that I still look up to and talk a lot of basketball with. And I remember him pulling me aside after a workout and saying, hey, you have the ability to play Division I. He said, you do. You have that ability, but you really have to work on these specific things. And really what that gave me was hope. It let me think like, hey, I trust this guy. He knows his stuff. He's coached Division I players before. And that kind of gave me a kick in the butt, so to speak, on, to start working a little harder and focusing my energy on the right things. And, that little pep talk that probably didn't last any more than 1 or 2 minutes, I'd say it kind of catapulted my basketball career, because, again, it kind of gave me that reason to continue to work hard and to do it the right way. So that was a big moment, and that kind of got me back on the right path. Obviously, the state championship game was something that I'll never forget. We were down in the third quarter. We were able to kind of make a big-time comeback in the fourth, and we iced it late to win that game. And there was another game my senior year where we played Washington High School, who had, I think, 3 Division I players on that team, and probably the best game of my high school career. Finished with 31 points and just had, I think 20 points in the second half to win the game, and probably my best individual performance per se. But, the thing about our group at Sunny Soap that was really unique is we had some really good basketball players. And then, as a lot of people who are familiar with high school sports know, we had some really good football players that were really good basketball role players as well. And so when those guys got done with their football season, we probably had 4 or 5 guys that came out from the football team, and they gave us that toughness and that grit and that physicality that we really needed to kind of get over the hump. And once we got those guys my junior year, we didn't lose a game.
Are we talking like late 80s Pistons grit and physicality, or a little bit less than that?
No, yeah, they weren't afraid to go in there and bang bodies around. They protected us. If like our backcourt ended up, we had 3 guys that ended up playing Division I in our backcourt, and those guys they protected us. We weren't very physical. I probably weighed 140 pounds at the time, but if we got laid out, they were going to go make sure that those guys heard about it. And it's great looking back at those times. I'm really close with a lot of those guys still, and to see how successful they've become. One example, one of my best friends in the world, his best man at my wedding, his name's AJ Cooper. He now coaches football at Washington State. He's the defensive line coach at Washington State. Played, football at North Dakota State, coached there, then went to Wyoming, and has now since moved on. And just seeing where all these guys have gone and the great families they've had, and just to kind of look back on how amazing those memories are.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like there's quite a tree there. You mentioned a small sports world earlier between Nate and the coach and your friends. The size of the sports world and how small it is will never cease to amaze me.
Sure.
I want to ask about making the varsity team after your freshman year, because you went from not making the JV team to not only making the JV, but skipping over the JV team.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what was that like for you? When was it a surprise? Did you know I had a really good tryout?
Well, so after, that summer going into my sophomore year, I played with the varsity team in summer league. And, I was fortunate. Again, I made a big jump, I would say, from that freshman to sophomore year. Physically, I grew. I was only 5'10" as a freshman in high school, and then I grew to about 6 feet as a sophomore. And again, just having that summer, I got pretty confident. So going into that year, I had a good feeling, but I had to do well in the tryouts and in the first couple weeks of practice to kind of earn that role and responsibility, and kind of turned it into becoming a starter. I started every game that year as a sophomore, which was really neat. But I think again that freshman experience really kind of set the expectation for me, understanding, hey, this isn't going to be easy. This isn't something that's just going to happen, especially within that program. So, working in that summer, we had a thing called TriStar basketball camp that was run by our head coach that we went to every day. It gave me the confidence and kind of pushed me towards that varsity spot that sophomore year.
What was your recruiting experience like?
Not very much, to be honest. No, I laugh about it all the time. And this is where, being a dual sport athlete didn't really help me. Right after we lost the state championship my sophomore year, I was out playing a doubleheader with the baseball team the next day. And I didn't play AAU basketball at all in my childhood until the summer between my junior and senior year. And that was, that probably led to a little bit of my lack of recruitment. And the way I explain it to people is I was a good basketball player. I was a good baseball player. I made varsity baseball as a sophomore, but I wasn't great in either. And so after winning the state championship as a junior, I had a pretty good year, both, obviously as a team and individually as well. And I just had to make a decision at that point kind of where I wanted to specialize if I wanted to play in the college level. And not playing baseball my junior year was a really tough decision. But I knew if I wanted to play, at the Division I level, I was going to have to go out and be seen a little bit, get recruited a little bit. And so I went out and played AAU between that junior and senior year. And, to be honest, I had a pretty successful summer. I played with the Arizona Stars, which was at the time the Nike AAU program out of Arizona. And, but my recruitment was relatively non-existent. I had no scholarship offers throughout that whole summer. I started getting, some recruitment from the Ivy League a little bit. Columbia University offered me a spot on their team. But in the Ivy League, it's all need-based financial aid, so it wasn't considered a scholarship. And then I was fortunate that St. Mary's College, Kyle Smith reached out and, kind of started talking to me about a preferred walk-on opportunity at St. Mary's. And so really my recruiting breakdown came between those two opportunities. And I ended up visiting St. Mary's. I was able to play pickup with the guys and get on campus and check it out. And I really wanted to stay on the West Coast, to be honest. And, I'm surprised my parents didn't force me to take a harder look at Columbia. I know if my son is in that same situation, I will definitely be making him take a harder look. But I didn't even go visit Columbia, to be honest. Once I got back, California was where I wanted to be. I thought St. Mary's was in a position to, start making some moves in the West Coast Conference. And, to kind of get in to that program on the ground floor was something that I was excited about.
You mentioned being brought on as a preferred walk-on. What does that mean as opposed to a non-preferred walk-on, as opposed to getting recruited?
Yeah, so basically the situation that was presented, there was a lot of, the rules in the NCAA change, year to year. And at the time, there was a rule that you couldn't give out any more than 8 scholarships over 2 years, and you couldn't give out more than 5 in either one of those years. And St. Mary's, when Coach Bennett got the job, he really turned the program over pretty quickly, cleaned it up quite a bit. So they had given out a ton of scholarships, and they were at the point where they were kind of overboard. So there was no opportunity in that regard for me. So the understanding was if my family was comfortable in paying my tuition for a year or two, that if I earned the opportunity to be in the rotation and to be somewhat of an impact player, that they would then put me on scholarship. So I knew going to St. Mary's that I was going to be on the team. I didn't have to get to campus and try out or do anything like that. I would have a locker. I was going to be a part of the program. But I was the 14th or 15th man as soon as I stepped on campus, which was, it was hard to overcome. But that was kind of the arrangement, the understanding that I entered the program with.
Did you ever, because you entered as a 14th, 15th man, you kind of wanted to get to that scholarship level within a year or two. Did you ever have to go back to that conversation after your freshman year of high school with that coach and say, I can do this, I can do this?
You know what? It was funny because it was similar, because I was very confident coming out of high school. I thought I was a good high school player in Arizona. We had a lot of success at Sunny Slope. I think our record was like 76-12 in the 3 years that I played on varsity. And I felt really good about myself. And then I got to St. Mary's, and, the first couple of weeks of practice and workouts, I'm going up against guys like E.J. Rowland and Paul Marigny, Daniel Kicker, guys that are, still playing professionally now as 37, 38-year-olds. And I realized, whoa, this is going to be a lot tougher than I thought. So there was definitely some times I actually redshirted my first year. I was by no means physically ready to compete at that level. I remember the first day walking onto campus at St. Mary's, I got weighed by Coach Bennett, and I weighed 159 pounds. And I remember Coach Bennett saying to me, if you want to play at this level, you're going to have to put on some weight. And so that first year was definitely tough. Physically especially, I worked really hard to try to put some weight on my frame. And, I was able to put on about 10 pounds that year. Nothing too incredible, but it was definitely challenging, and it was eye-opening. And to be able to go back to Steve Rosenbaum and to Coach Mannix and kind of talk to them about some things, it definitely helped me get through that year.
Oh, absolutely. When you got to college, how would you have described yourself as a player?
When I got to college, I would have said good shooter, not good enough with the ball in terms of, ball handling as I should have been. good feel for the game, good understanding. I think one thing that kind of helped me throughout my career was I was really good at kind of understanding coaching. I never, knock on wood, I don't feel like I was ever had to told twice to what to do. Coach Bennett or Coach Smith said something to me, I was able to execute it pretty quickly. And that ability to kind of read and react with the game made up for some of my deficiencies from an athleticism standpoint.
Your first year on the active roster, you appeared in 16 games. The next year you started more than 20. Right. What changed?
A lot of good players graduated. No, my first year, it was funny because I had a pretty decent role, the first 8 games of the season. I think in my first college game, I played like 28 minutes against Belmont, and in a big win that was at Cal Berkeley and as part of the Coaches versus Cancer event. And, so I started, hey, this is going to be pretty cool. I'm going to play a lot. That next night, I think I played 15 minutes in an upset win. We beat Cal at Cal, which gave us the opportunity to go play at Madison Square Garden. And then those next 2 games, we played Memphis and Mississippi State, lost both games, but again, played between 10 to 15 minutes and had a nice sizable role. And then we had a couple guys that weren't able to get eligible till semester. So around that 8 or 9 game mark, I can't recall exactly what it was. As soon as they became eligible, I started wearing that towel around my neck quite a bit, waving it a lot, and just being a great teammate. But my role changed is the bottom line. Those guys got back in the rotation. Our team got a lot better. And, I was comfortable understanding that it wasn't my time yet. We ended up going to the NCAA tournament. We lost to Southern Illinois in the first round. But then after that year, E.J. Rowland graduated, Paul Marigny graduated, Fred Ajuanu graduated, Daniel Kicker graduated. And so, 4 starters leave, next man up mentality a little bit. And then that sophomore year, we were solid. I think we won 17 games. And I think I started every game but senior night. But it really was, just losing a lot of great talent that provided that opportunity for me to be able to play.
Absolutely. So you mentioned one of the tournament runs. You had a lot of success when you were in Moraga. What are some of those salient memories that stick out to you from your time at St. Mary's?
Oh man, that it really was. It was kind of a tale of kind of 2 types of team experiences from that first year and 4th year as an eligible player going to the tournament, and then those middle 2 years being somewhat of rebuilding years. It is really what it was, and it was really interesting, to kind of see how all that transpired. Getting to play with those great players early on, and then as a senior, being the leader of the team with guys like Patty Mills and Omar Samhan and Diamond Simpson that were babies. These guys were freshmen and sophomores who were incredibly talented. And, I was fortunate to have that experience early on and understand what it took to play on an NCAA tournament team and try to teach these younger guys, hey, this is what it's going to take. And I definitely recall, the expectation for that team my senior year was not exceptional. I think people thought we were going to be good, but I don't think anybody thought we were going to be great. And, obviously their talent just kind of turned up, and then our coaching staff did a great job. So myself and Tron Smith was the only other senior on the team. I thought we did a pretty good job from a leadership standpoint, getting these younger guys together, kind of galvanizing everybody together and getting everybody on a common path. And, my senior year, there was a ton of great memories. I started every game with Patty in the backcourt. I was definitely his Robin. He was Batman and I was his Robin. I tell people all the time, because I shot the ball really well as a senior. I think I was like 45 or 46% from 3 over the course of the season. And, people are like, what changed? How did you go from, 35% as a junior to 46% as a senior? And I said, the reality was, that sophomore and junior year, I had to play a lot of point guard. We didn't have a solid point guard. And so I was playing a little bit out of position, trying to man the offense and run the team. When Patty Mills got to Moraga, my job got a lot easier. It was stand in the corner and make the open 3. And so, and Patty always did a good job finding me, and I was just able to become a much more efficient player that last year because my usage went down and I didn't have to try and make as many plays. I was able to pick my spots and really just be a communicator and a leader on the floor.
That sounds like an incredible time Uh, what kind of things did you pick up from? You mentioned Kyle Smith was there, Randy Bennett. You mentioned a couple of times. Um, did you pick anything up from them while you were playing for them?
Absolutely. I think when I played at St. Mary's, that with that program, and they still do a great job of it. Guys get a lot tougher. They come in, maybe not understanding the challenges at the Division I level. Coach Bennett is obviously a very good basketball coach, and he kind of instills this toughness in you. And especially me being, a walk-on, he was, the funny thing is usually coaches are really hard on their good players. He was the hardest on me as the walk-on. I don't know if he thought that he saw some of himself. Sorry, he saw some of himself in me, and he's like, "Oh, this guy's not a Division I player. He doesn't belong here." But he was really hard on me and kind of gave me that toughness and that grit. And just understanding the game, being around those guys every day, and kind of picking their brains on different aspects. I felt like leaving there, I had a great understanding of the game of basketball, and I feel like being around them every day provided me that opportunity and that knowledge.
You told us earlier about how you would have evaluated yourself coming into college. How would you evaluate yourself leaving college?
Honestly, the best thing about myself leaving college was I had a great understanding of what I was as a player. That's really just the best way I can say it. I obviously developed into a really, really good shooter. That was kind of my bread and butter. I was really our fourth or fifth option that year leaving, but if I got an open shot, I was knocking it down. And then from a ball handling and kind of facilitating standpoint, I really was able to pick my spots. I think I had like a 82 to 27 assist to turnover ratio that year. And again, just understood, what opportunities were available, how to play out of the pick and roll. When I penetrated, what I should be looking for, whether it was, the drop off to the big man or the throw out for the three. And then defensively, I was really a below average on-ball defender. I wasn't incredibly strong or laterally quick, which made it difficult for me to keep guys in front. But again, my mental toughness was pretty good. My mental, just focus. And so what I did was I would guard other shooters, and I just would not let them get 3-point shots up. So if we played a team with a knockdown shooter, we always felt good going into that game, knowing that I was never going to lose that guy. I was never going to give him an opportunity to find an open shot. And to be able to kind of eliminate that from the other team, gave us a good opportunity to win. So again, I would say my skills obviously were refined and improved, but just my knowledge of the game and my knowledge of myself, made me an even better player over the course of my career.
So you finished your time at St. Mary's, and you subsequently played professionally overseas. Was there anything in between before you started the pro career?
Well, the funny thing about that was it wasn't really until the middle of my senior year of college that I really even thought about playing professionally. That was just not something that I was really somewhat content with being a Division I player. I kind of thought that was, I had achieved a goal that I didn't think I could do. But then, that senior year, we started off 19-2 or something like that. We're 18th or 19th in the country. And, I started having some really good individual success. I was just a part of a really good team, and people started reaching out about potential pro opportunities. And, then I started thinking, well, hey, this is going to be something that I'm going to look into if these opportunities are there. And so after that season ended, different agents started reaching out. There were a couple of tryouts, and really what sparked my opportunity to go play in Israel was the team that I played for, Maccabi Haifa, held a tryout in Florida. And because of, my Jewish background, I could make Aliyah, which is becoming an Israeli citizen. And that's very valuable because in Israel, you need to have 2 Israelis on the court at all time. So I was basically like having another American on the court. And so I went to that tryout. And again, coming off that senior year, going to the tournament, I was just super confident and played with a lot of ease. I was just going out there, just playing my game, and I played really, really well. And within 48 or 72 hours of that tryout, I had a contract offer to go play in Haifa. So it's just really crazy how it all transpired. But that playing well at that tryout definitely gave me that opportunity to go play professionally.
And so you got the contract pretty quickly. It sounds like. Did you sign it quickly? Was there any intermediary period?
No, it wasn't for a whole bunch of money or anything, but it was a 2-year contract. And again, once I had that opportunity to go play professionally, I wanted to take advantage of that. I thought that'd be really neat to go over to Europe and play, and to go play in Israel where there a lot of American players play. It's a really good country for American players because everybody over there speaks English. The menus at the restaurants are in English. In Tel Aviv, I would compare very similarly to a combination of New York City and LA. You got a great downtown and you have a great beach. And Haifa was more of an industrial town, but it was a beautiful place as well. Also 10 to 15 minutes off the water, off the Mediterranean Sea. It was just an incredible, opportunity and experience.
Did you have any culture shock heading over there?
Absolutely. To be honest, it was, I look back on it and regret a little bit, not taking advantage of it as much as I should. I was super homesick a lot. I went over there by myself. I remember being in my apartment. I had not got my internet up and running yet on like the second day I was there, and just reading a book and thinking like, what am I doing over here? This is crazy. And then, once I got everything organized and I got more comfortable, really started to enjoy it, made some great friends on my team, played with some great guys. Played one of my good friends to this day who now coaches with the Phoenix Suns. His name Ben Strong. He actually was a D3 player that played over there. Great guy. Guys like Jerome Perkins, who played collegiately at Santa Clara, who was one of the best players on our team. Davon Jefferson, who played at USC. All these guys were on our team. And, just having that camaraderie of I think we had 6 or 7 American guys on our team, along with 6 or 7 Israelis. And it was just a great blend of personalities, great blend of basketball players. And, that first year we were incredibly successful. We lost in the championship game to Maccabi Tel Aviv in a game that we had a lead in the third quarter. So it was just an experience that I'll never forget.
Was Maccabi Tel Aviv the ringer of the league?
Maccabi Tel Aviv, I explain to people, is like the New York Yankees of Israeli basketball. You walk into their gym, which at least at the time was the Nokia Center, and you look up and it's, they have the championship banner from every year. They it was the championship. And that team that we had, honestly, was talented enough to win it. I think if that was a neutral court setting, I think we get that thing done. But we go to Tel Aviv, and again, I think we had a 10-point lead in the first half. We were up by as many as 6 or 7 in the third. But they just overwhelmed us a little bit. Omri Caspi, who, a lot of Bay Area basketball fans should remember, he played on the Warriors for a couple years and the Kings. He was on that Tel Aviv team. They had a couple other, like Carlos Arroyo, who played in the NBA for quite a few years, was on that team. And, they were just a little too much for us, and they were able to beat us. But it was just an awesome experience. I think in that championship game, there's, 14,000 people there. And just kind of look around and see, me being on the floor and that opportunity was just awesome.
What were some lessons that you took away from your pro career?
I thought it was really interesting to see the coaching. It was much different. Obviously playing for Coach Bennett and Coach Smith for 5 years, I was very comfortable to a certain type of coaching. And then going over there, it was just a lot different. I think it was much more of a professional atmosphere. Guys had a lot more freedom. It wasn't as structured. And it took me a while to get used to it. It wasn't something that I was used to. Like I remember one of the first practices, I got subbed out during a scrimmage, and I was standing up, kind of cheering on, talking to people on the court. And one of the coaches was like, "Hey, dude, you're good. You can just go sit on the side for a little bit." Like, it was just such a more laid back environment there in regards to that. And it took me a while to get completely comfortable with it. But after a while, you adjust and you got to figure it out. And, the one thing it did teach me was there's more than, one way to do a certain thing, whether it be coaching or teaching. And we were very successful with that coaching staff in Israel, which coached in a much different way than our coaches at St. Mary's did. So that was probably a great lesson that I learned while I was there.
When did you decide to hang them up, so to speak?
So, and this is a great story. So towards the end of my second year in Israel, again, I made Aliyah, so I became an Israeli citizen. One of the things that's required when you become an Israeli citizen is serving time in the military. And so I was told by my team that I would not have to serve because I was too old. Usually you enter the military at 18 in Israel, and I got over there at 22. But towards the end of my second year, right before the playoffs, I got a call from the manager of my team, and he told me, hey, just so you know, you're going to have to report tomorrow, but they're going to let you go as soon as the day is over because they know that you're participating in the playoffs and yada, 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 yada. And so I was just kind of blown away. I had grown my hair out really long. It was I was kind of living my my best life as a 22-year-old. And so I get on a bus in Haifa and travel down to Nahariya, where the Israeli base was for the incoming military cadets, so to speak. And I remember the first thing that they did was they separated people with hair that was below their ears. And why, you ask? Well, so as soon as I was separated, they took me into a room and they just buzzed my head. I went to the next thing. I sit down and I go, and it's like a dentist chair. And I asked the guy, what's this? He goes, oh, we need to take your dental x-rays. And I said, okay, why? And he goes, well, we need a way to identify you if anything happens. And so at this point, I'm just freaking out, of course, right? And so I get through the day. It was really, really difficult to get them to release me. I had to find the right guy because not everybody knew who I was or what was going on. And I put this on my son. When I got done, I left the base. I ended up hitchhiking back to Tel Aviv, where my father was that day, in about a 30-minute ride because I was stuck there with no vehicle or anything. And fortunately, I was picked up by a very nice woman who drove me the rest of the way down to Tel Aviv, and I met my dad. And really, at that moment, I looked over at him. We were sharing a meal, and I said, "Hey, I think this is going to be it for me. As soon as I'm ready to go back to the United States and kind of get started with the rest of my life." And so we finished the playoffs that year, and I got back to the United States, and that's how I finished.
Out of all the answers you could have given me, that's the one I least expected. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's something that I'll never forget.
Yeah, no kidding. Looking at your playing career, right, all the way from you through your couple of years in Israel, how has your playing career helped you in your coaching career?
It's helped a lot. I think the main thing is I feel like I've been in a lot of different spots as a player. I've been the 15th man, and I've also been in the starting five. And just kind of being able to live those experiences and looking back on what I was feeling during those times, or what I felt like could have helped me during those times. Now it helps me with our team. If some guys are struggling and they're not playing as much as they want, I'm able to articulate certain things to them about sticking with it and knowing, hey, just stay steady, and your day will come. Or if a guy's starting and he's not working as hard as I need him to, or he's not doing everything that I need, I can light a fire under his butt and get him to pick it up a little bit. There's a lot of different, just really drawing back off those experiences has helped me, especially in this first year, being a younger coach. And our guys know that I played. Our guys know, that we had success in college, and they know I played professionally. So I can lean on those experiences as a way to teach and try to put our guys in good situations, and they trust that what I'm telling them is the right thing.
What kind of advice would you give a young athlete looking to play at the D1 level?
That you got to put the work in. It's really, it's not, there's no magic formula. It's really about work, and it's about focus, and it's about consistency. It's not something that'll happen overnight. I think a lot of people, at this day and age with social media and with everything going on, they worry about their offers, and they worry about their mixtapes, and they worry about these different things. And at the end of the day, those things really, they're not that important. I'll point to our roster right now. You see a guy like Jamari Bouye, we were his only Division I offer. That's crazy. He's a great player. He's a guy that could play at the next level if he has a really good year. Khalil Shabazz, guy, he had no Division I offers out of high school either. He goes and plays at the D2 level and tears it up, and we were fortunate enough to get him after that. But there's not one singular path to get there. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to understand. Again, like the instant gratification that a lot of these kids want. And it was no different, 10, 15 years ago when I was, finishing up high school. We all wanted that too, but it's not that important, and just staying steady, keeping the right things as your priorities are really the most important things. And those things will give you the best chance to be successful. There's no magic formula. There's nothing that you can do that can guarantee it. All you can do is really work at it. Obviously do really well academically, make sure, you're a good person off the floor, and just give yourself the best opportunity to reach those goals.
And what if that athlete says, I want to play D1 and I also want to play pro?
Same. It's really the same, and it doesn't stop over the years. I talked to Damari Milstead last night about Damian Lillard. I think Damian Lillard's an amazing example of a guy who has never been satisfied with his success. He was a guy that when I was at St. Mary's came on an official visit my senior year, and he was a good player, but he was by no means a guaranteed awesome, college player, but he just kept working. All 9 Bay Area Division I schools passed on Damian Lillard, 9. So he goes to Weber, keeps working, has a heck of a career. Again, works himself into being, I think he was the 9th pick in the draft, or by the Trailblazers, some top 10 for sure. Ends up being a great rookie, and again, not satisfied. Keeps working. And then you look at the other night when they play the Lakers. He hits that 36-foot three with about a minute and a half to go to ice the game. And they ask him, about that confidence. And after the game, he said, one area that I really wanted to improve on over this past, basically during the off time of the NBA, was continuing to play from further out. If I could be a threat to play from further out, then they're going to have to guard me all the way out there. And the guy shot over 40% from threes outside of 30 feet this season. I mean, that's
insane.
It's insane. But he is a great example of someone who has never been satisfied by the success he's had and constantly challenges himself to get better. And I think if you can look at a guy like Damian Lillard and say, hey, this was a guy coming out of high school that nobody would have thought would have played in the NBA. And now you look at him, he's probably the best or top 2 or 3 guard in the NBA. The mind's very powerful. Confidence is very powerful. Belief is very powerful. And if you pair that with the work, it's pretty amazing what can happen.
That's awesome. Great advice as well. I have one more question for you, Coach.
Sure.
So take yourself in the prime of your career.
Okay.
You can play one-on-one with any player from any era.
Okay.
Who is it and why?
It's a great question. I go back and forth. I was a big Steve Nash fan, in my younger days because he was a great Phoenix Sun, and I don't like to brag on him too much because he's a Santa Clara Bronco. But he was a guy that I identified with a little bit simply because he was undersized. He wasn't very athletic, but he was always one step ahead in terms of playing the game. So he would definitely be a guy that I would like to, mix it up with a little bit. And then probably I'll throw like a Matthew Dellavedova in there because he's another under-talented, scruffy guy who's kind of outkicked his coverage in terms of his career, but another guy that proves what hard work and belief can do.
And did you ever play one-on-one with Dellavedova when he was when you were at St. Mary's?
He came in 2 years after I left. We played quite a bit, pick up, during my pro career and as I was finishing up. But we never went straight one-on-one. That was probably good for me too.
Fair enough. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time. Any last thoughts from your playing career that you'd want to leave us with?
No, it was something that I'm proud of. Again, like going into high school, never really didn't really know what exactly my career trajectory would look like. But I was really fortunate over the course of my career to have great coaches. And I think that's one of the things that's propelled me to this opportunity here at San Francisco. I never forget it. If I didn't have those guys, I wouldn't be here today. And, sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good. And in those scenarios, having the luck to playing for those guys was something that I'll be appreciative for the rest of my life.
Well, now your players can say the same thing about you and your staff as well.
Okay. Yeah.
This has been the Golden Hour with USF men's basketball head coach Todd Golden. For Coach Golden, I am Vinny Longo. Thank you so much for joining us. Watch again next time and catch up on all of our episodes on the Dons Athletics YouTube channel. You can get there by visiting usfdons.com/golden hour. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and go Dons.